unprofessional, unscripted, hated by the national media. That's what we are. It's the Pride of Detroit PODcast, prideofdetroit.com, at Pride of Detroit on Twitter, Pride of Detroit on Facebook, live right now. If you are listening to us live right now, yes, on twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit. I just said there's no scripts. National media hates us. They call us unprofessional. They ask us, would Bill Belichick do that? Would Bill Simmons do what Chris Perfett, the adequate host, is doing right now, wearing a luchador mask? Would Colin Cowherd do that? No. And that's why it's better. That's why I am Chris Perfett, the adequate host. I just said that. And joining me, as always, Jeremy Reisman, the fearless leader at Detroit Online. Hello, Jeremy.
Hi. I promise to be as unprofessional as possible on this podcast. That is my duty this week.
How dare you? Would Adam Schefter do what Jeremy is doing with a green screen coming to you from Ford Field? Would Adam Schefter do that? Would Ian Rappaport do that?
Absolutely not. They're too afraid, to be honest. They're too afraid to green screen. You know what? I'll even switch it up. You want me to switch up my green screen? Boom. Mustaches. Boom. Mozzarella sticks. Unprofessional.
My green screens in the shop right now are also coming from Howard Ratner's jewelry shop. Anyway, to continue the unprofessional streak, would Booger McFarlane have an intro with a bunch of cussing by Limp Bizkit like our man Ryan Matthews? At Ryan_POD. Ryan, would he do that?
No, would he wear a backwards hat?
Oh my God.
We didn't even notice
that you are an idiot.
My word.
That you are not a CEO, a chief executive officer.
Clutch
Ryan
your
is our
pearls.
Ryan is our quarterback. So if on this episode of the PODcast, if you haven't guessed already, we're going to start by talking about some very mad people who are very mad at Dan Campbell for daring to do the one thing you can't do as a coach. Have fun. Have fun during an OTA. We are going to talk about more OTA talk, including everyone's new favorite quarterback, Jared Goff, and less than favorite quarterback, and plenty more to talk about on players. And Jeremy's got a spicy minicamp preview coming for us. But first, before we get to all that, I just want to say we are now at over 500 reviews on Apple Podcasts for the Pride of Detroit PODcast. If you haven't downloaded the podcast from Apple, from Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, but we go by the Apple Podcast reviews. Yes, thank you. Clap, small clap. Thank you guys very much. I know it's not the highest reviewed because people keep leaving 1 stars for me, but we are at 4.3 on there with over 501 reviews. If you haven't left a review by now, be part of the empire and give us 5 stars.
Make it so that we can continue to say we are the most rated Detroit Lions podcast out there.
The most rated.
The most rated.
The most rated. It's time to put all that aside and get to the topic of the day. The helmet. I have nothing else to say other than I believe Dan Campbell should be fired right now on the spot. There's no excuse for it. There is nothing else to say. Goodbye, sir. You have not been CEO enough.
It's just unfortunate for Detroit Lions fans that now we've had 2 head coaches that before they've even coached a game have had huge controversies that are of equal proportion for sure.
Oh
my God! Wow, he went there.
Putting our toe in that pool, huh? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's way too cold, Ryan. Let's find another pool to dip in. No. So what happened was, for those who haven't been paying attention the past week, Dan Campbell it is IndyCar season. The Indy 500 happened over Memorial Day. That means the Detroit Grand Prix is always up next because Detroit hosts a very big IndyCar race. Guess what? Dan Campbell, Lions head coach, he gets to be the Grand Marshal. So what does Dan Campbell do? He's very excited. He gets to celebrate. This is Dan Campbell, a man who once, for a Cowboys season ticket commercial, tackled a horse. So Dan Campbell goes and puts on a racing helmet. He puts on a racing helmet. The vapors. The audacity of this man. And that sends tremors up the chain of command to everyone's favorite morning host, who he looked up from his John Wooden book. He looked up from his book of Steve Jobs methods on how to become a success win guy, Colin Cowherd, and went on his show, and he was very upset about it. So it was his co-host, Joy Taylor. Now, this is the part where I have to disclose that I have worked with Joy Taylor before, and she is a very nice woman, and I don't want to hate on her too much, but they were both very, very disturbed by this, Jeremy.
I mean, can the audacity? I mean, we've been talking about the sanctity of the press conference with the Naomi Osaka stuff, and he has to. I mean, the gall on Dan Campbell for 15 seconds, a whole 15 seconds where I can't even hear what he's saying because I'm so distracted by a racing helmet on his head.
What? A white racing helmet, Jeremy. A white racing helmet.
No, I mean it's. If we can break kayfabe here, ooh, look at me using a Lions term or a wrestling term.
I can't do that. I'm wearing a luchador mask right now.
It's silly. It's stupid. I think it's funny. I think it's funny that people are upset about this. And maybe we're making mountains out of molehill out of just one reaction of it. But you know there are people out there that share that, or at least share that anxiety of the Lions have always been a laughing stock, and this is only going to hurt them continue to be a laughing stock when everyone in Detroit is just like, this is awesome. We have a coach who's just like having fun out there, being himself. And that's the key to me, is he's being himself up there. Matt Patricia was never himself up there. We talked to him all along the side, and he could occasionally have a little bit of a personality, but you put him in front of a mic, you put him in front of a camera, he is the most stale, most boring person in the world. We're having a little bit of fun, because why not? This is sports. We don't get to have fun with Detroit Lions football ever. Dan Campbell's bringing a little fun. And don't say that he has to get wins first. Don't say that this isn't how you build a culture. Ask any of the Lions players right now how they're feeling about the Lions culture. Pretty damn good, because they're allowing them to be themselves. Tracy Walker is ecstatic right now because he can just be himself. And when you have a head coach out there being himself and being a little goofball out there, like listen, I know it's not that funny. I know it looks like a goof, like he's being an idiot to 31 other teams, but he's our idiot now. And I'm happy that we have a little idiot, little goofball in there because it's fun. Let us have a little fun. Screw you guys.
Yeah. I had a feeling that something like this was going to happen because what we got in Dan Campbell's first press conference.
Yes.
In his introductory press conference, that was Dan Campbell. And I knew that more of that was to come for as many interviews that he did subsequently where people brought up the kneecap thing and he kind of like walked it back a little bit. And he was like, I was kind of caught up in the moment, so to speak. I knew that something like this was going to happen, and I know that the book has already been written on Dan Campbell from the national media's perspective. So I know that him having fun or doing something like this was going to be met with absolute scorn and just disgust. And, one of Joy Taylor's comments, and I think it goes to Jeremy's point, and this will wrap it up for me, but the idea that she goes, well, if Andy Reid does that, that's funny because Andy Reid has somehow won his way into doing silly stuff. I don't understand the equation. I don't understand the wins plus funny equals okay.
Right.
I don't understand that equation.
What's the benchmark that you have to hit where you can be silly in a press conference?
How many wins? Because if Andy Reid doesn't go to Kansas City and he's Andy Reid, the perpetual loser of the NFC conference game, is he allowed to have fun?
Right.
Did he win enough games?
No, he is legally not allowed to be the Kool-Aid man walking through that brick wall.
And here's the thing, I would maybe at least a little bit understand it if it's December and the Lions are 1-14, and then he goes
it would be like read the room, right?
Right.
It's
exactly.
OTAs. It's OTAs.
Yeah. He's trying to make he's literally in the middle of trying to create a fun culture here and going up in front of a camera and doing something like that. Listen, there are probably there are probably players that think it's corny in the Lions locker room. I get that. But I think they just as much appreciate him being honest with himself.
But I don't think that that corniness might be a funny thing to them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of dad-ish, dad humor to do that, there's a level of humor in that still.
Yeah, and
it's harmless fun. It's
He's not
harmless
wearing
fun.
it for nothing. He's not wearing it for nothing. He's the Grand Marshal of the Detroit Grand Prix,
he's
of an
not-
IndyCar race.
He's not showing up like in an astronaut costume for no freaking reason. Like,
yeah, the thing is that I find the Andy Reid thing kind of compelling because we also just had a weekend where All Elite Wrestling, I'm sorry, Jeremy, bring wrestling into it. It takes place in Jacksonville. There was a backstage fight there that somehow went through Urban Meyer's office. And Urban Myers, I think, handed one of the wrestlers a laptop to him so he could beat the other guy half to death with it.
and then who was there? Was it an assistant coach that was tossing footballs to Chris Jericho so that he could chuck them?
Yes. By the way, what was the big story of the 2020 NFL draft? It was Bill Belichick's dog sitting there at the draft table in his kitchen. So don't tell me Bill Belichick wouldn't do that. It's just Bill Belichick, I think, is a little more guarded. He's a different person. But guess what? This is my ultimate point when it comes to Cowherd, because I know Cowherd. I've listened to him for a long time, and I know where he's going with this, is that Colin Cowherd likes axioms. He likes a one-size-fit-all. And this isn't just him. This is a problem across business in America, business culture in America, and even sports culture altogether. And I even had this from a friend, like a deep friend of mine from USC, a professor, urged me to basically find a book by John Wooden. And I read this thing, and it's all these things about how John Wooden was a successful coach, but it's life lessons, it's axiomatics. And there are so many people in this country that are addicted to this idea that to be successful, it's not just enough to be successful, like that your actions are successful. It's that you have to also behave the right way. You have to dress the right way. You have to sound the right way. You have to get up at the right morning. Your feng shui has to be just perfect. Your qi has to be in balance. You have to be drinking the right things, and you have to be acting the right way. You can't be wearing your baseball cap on backward. No, you can't do that at all. That's what dumb jocks from the Midwest do. People who are not successful. It's this Puritan way of consuming who we are, how we behave in society. It's a very peckish way of basically enforcing a very rigid, almost forgotten social etiquette. And it's being applied to sports to Dan Campbell, because Colin Cowherd believes that, because he says it all the time on his show. It's his own words. He believes quarterbacks and coaches are the CEOs of their teams, and they should act like CEOs. The problem is that history has shown you, both in football and in business, how many guys don't fit those molds. And we kind of go back after the fact and assign the righteousness and the right acting to them after the fact. So it's being used as a cudgel against Campbell for no good reason, other than it's like that he's the coach of the Lions, who, I mean, the Lions have done plenty of coaches who are serious, and where'd that get them? Nowhere. But I'm sorry, like I just don't buy it, because I feel like that kind of thinking only really appeals to people who are constantly getting swindled by mid-level marketing schemes and then cutting negative friends out of their life because the New York Times told them to do it so they could achieve better chi. It's useless auxiliary shit. It doesn't actually mean you're a successful person in your life. Live your life as you so damn well wish, and let your actions do the talking. And yes, if Dan Campbell loses, yeah, we'll probably look at this helmet thing as kind of silly, but he's a former player. Like, we've already talked enough about how he's a different mold from all these other coaches. Like, again, I just said he let them put him in a Cowboys commercial where he tackled a horse. Like, this is who he is, and his success or failure on the field will not be predicated upon him talking about kneecaps and wearing a racing helmet. It will not. It will be based on his schemes, his personnel, and his execution.
Yeah, the helmet, that's nothing that anybody's ever going to look back at and say, you know why the Lions weren't successful? Dan Campbell wore that helmet. You know why the Lions weren't successful? Because he talked about biting kneecaps. Nobody's going to do that, because everybody just lived through the Matt Patricia era where, you know, to borrow something from Colin Cowherd, they hired the best candidate from the most prestigious company, and he didn't do jack shit. So, I mean, that's where we are. That's where we are right now. And I think also this is where we are in the NFL offseason too. Like, right. This is where we're at, where there's nothing, right?
Where the lead is we're talking about a helmet.
For the Detroit Lions, yeah.
That's what we're leading with, yeah.
But I mean, the whole, I think maybe the reason why it caught like wildfire amongst Lions Twitter, beside this just being the time of year for something like that to just hit, is the fact that Joy brought up, she's like, I would never see Bill Belichick do that. I would never see Brian Flores doing that.
Well, she also called her Twitter post like, Lions fans, you deserve better, which I think triggered the Detroit versus everybody response.
It's extremely condescending, but like her using those two specific examples coming from the Patriots tree when this team just came from being Patriots Midwest, a little tone deaf there. We've tried to, be the professional route. I mean, really, even going back to Caldwell, like, I know he let his players have fun, but he was very professional. He was like in front of the camera, very like studious and decorum, whatever phrase you want to throw out there. Like, they were all that. And I mean, I think people need to realize, like, in general, people are just getting a little bit more informal with everything across the board. Like, CEOs are dressed in board shorts and players are starting to be silly and take kind of power of their own personalities. And that can be true of coaches too now. Like, I'm sorry, like, you guys can live in this old, like, it's funny that we're kind of considering Dan Campbell a new age kind of coach in that he's letting his personality fly while a lot of his philosophies, in terms of football are kind of more old school. But that's just it. Like, he's quote unquote the best of both worlds in that, like, he's still that tough, gritty mentality that I think, a Colin Cowherd would very much approve of. A guy that, is all about being physical and all that sort of stuff. But he's also a guy that's just not afraid to be himself and be silly and, like, realize that this is an entertainment business. We can't lose sight of it. This is an entertainment business.
Dan Campbell from the Bill Parcells coaching tree, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Right. And listen, he could pretend to be someone else, and he could stand up there and try to be this mold of the old school coach where, he's not giving away any secrets, and he's just, towing the company line and saying, all of the normal things we say during a press conference. But he's not. He's being himself. And I think if he shows himself that he's got comfort, that he can be himself, then everyone else in that locker room is going to take lead from that and be themselves and be a little more loose. And I think everyone in that locker room and in the city of Detroit is going to benefit from that, both in terms of an entertainment standpoint. And I think maybe from a football standpoint too. I think you play better when you're loose, when you're tight, when you fear going in front of a press conference because you don't want to say the wrong thing and get chewed out in a meeting. That's not a culture that breeds a lot of, happy people. And if you have unhappy people in that locker room, they're not going to be playing at their best. So I think this is more so the other end of the spectrum, something that I view as very, very positive, not only for my own benefit in terms of covering this team, but I think for that locker room as well.
You know why Matt Patricia wasn't successful? Because he drove that ATV around.
Totally unprofessional.
That four-wheeler is really what did him in.
Really? I mean, like, that was the most personality we ever got from Matt Patricia, and everyone loved it at the time. That
and a Ticonderoga tucked behind his ear. Like, that was the most personality that anybody ever got out of Matt Patricia, and he was wildly successful here in Detroit. So,
it's just such a selective reading. And yeah, I think the way it did blow up is you hit the one fan base who has been conditioned to believe that the only times the national media is ignoring them right up until the national media wants to take a baseball bat to them when it comes to Detroit sports fans. Like, I'm not gonna say we're doing that here, but it is very much so that you attacked gamers kind of thing, where you hit a fan base who is very prickly already and very isolationist and very self-defensive. But look, we're not. I mean, I like it because I have my own bias, and because the whole point of the POD cast has always been that let's disperse with the doom and gloom and let's have some fun while talking about the Lions. They might lose a lot, but we're at least going to show that we have some fun here. So Dan Campbell's doing just that. So that's my coach. That's my coach.
Can I put on my Ryan Matthews tinfoil hat for a second?
Ooh.
and kind of play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, and just I want to pose this question to you guys. is the reason that, I mean, this is essentially one take that Lions fans jumped on and devoured and got the pitchforks out just for one person, essentially. Is the reason you think that this struck such a nerve because Lions fans are maybe a little bit insecure, a little bit anxious about Dan Campbell and his, not viewed as that, genius mentality kind of head coach?
I think this is touching the same button that the Matt Campbell button pressed. I think it's he's our guy. And I think Detroit becomes so insulary where it's like, this is who our guy is. He's our coach. And I notice that a lot. And I think that's something that in sports just you see everywhere in, it doesn't matter which region you're in, but there's a lot of that collective pronoun we that people use and adopt. But I see that that's so prevalent on Lions Twitter, because I think that a lot of people do identify with being that underdog. And I think that when they see, as Chris, said, the national media is so quick to pull out a baseball bat to the underdog, it really seems like Goliath is just beating up on David, right? And I think that's just that natural knee-jerk reaction. So I don't think it's any different than saying, well, the Lions were really interested in Matt Campbell. It's like, well, hell no, like Dan Campbell's our guy. Whether or not he's talking about budding kneecaps or he's putting on, an Indy helmet, it doesn't make a difference. I think that he's their guy, and they'll stick by him to the bitter end because, hey, we also saw the same thing with Matt Patricia.
Yeah, and I think part of it too comes back to the fact that I'm going to keep doing that. Dan Campbell wasn't on anyone's radar to be a head coach among the last head coaching feeding frenzy. Right. He wasn't there. He wasn't on the radar, and all of a sudden he picks up, and yeah, we had to justify it too because we were shocked. All of our research was going to other guys. It was going to other former head coaches or hotshot defensive coordinators, be it Saleh or anyone else that was out there at the time.
Brandon
Staley, yes. But I was going to say some offensive coordinators, but that's who we were looking at. We weren't looking at the assistant head coach, Sean Payton, a guy whose last head coaching stint was 4-12, basically I think it was a little less than that actually, but yeah, it was 12 games with the Dolphins, right, where he had to take over for Joe Philbin and was just infamous for just getting laughed out of the building a few times. Nobody was thinking really about that.
Not really.
I mean,
he went 5-7.
He did.
Wanted to keep him around.
I guess, but there was also a couple games where he just got blown out too. And I mean, he was a bit of a joke even in Miami because he was doing the Oklahoma drills and everything. But when we talked about it, and we talked rightly so, I think, about, hey, he's grown with learning under Sean Payton. He's been able to adopt.
He's been groomed as a head coach.
He's been groomed as a head coach, and he's picking up a ton of guys for a great staff on paper. Yep. And giving them a lot of opportunities, guys who want to be head coaches someday too. So, I mean, hell, it's just, I think it creates the perfect storm for, our favorite hashtag. I say that groaning a bit, Detroit versus everybody.
The last thing I want to talk about really quick before we had to break, because I know we're going a little bit over in our first segment here. That attachment,
unprofessional, how dare you?
That attachment that Ryan was talking about, that Dan Campbell is our guy, our head coach. I feel like this is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. Yes, it happens every time there's a new coach. Yes, it happens every time there's a new regime. But this feels at least a little bit different, because I do feel like he is resonating personality-wise with what Lions fans haven't really seen in a very, very long time. And there are a lot of very honest, legitimate moments where it just felt like this is something cool. It's a former player who'd played on the Lions. Granted, it was only for a year or two. He stepped onto that practice field and shed real tears walking in. And the thing is, and I wrote this to a Minnesota blog, a lot of coaches come in here and say Detroit is special, and it's a great sports city, and it's blue collar, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy it most of the time. When it comes out of Dan Campbell's mouth, I kind of buy it. I kind of buy that he believes all that stuff. I kind of believe that he thinks Detroit matters, that he thinks this is a special sports city, that this place is important to him, that this job was important to him. And I think that has endeared Lions fans in a way that I haven't seen really ever with the Lions head coach. And yes, it could all fall apart in year one, and if he goes 2-15. And yes, like I do think fans could be quick to turn on him. But at the same time, I think this is why we've seen such a vigorous defense of him, is because he's done an amazing job in 3 months, 4 months of just endearing him to the city. And that's why anyone who dares make fun of our dear head coach, they're going to see some quite some backlash before the season starts.
One quick quote before we go to break. He was playing on one arm. He was still out there starting, playing against beasts out there, but still sustaining. So mad respect to him, and I know the guys are going to respect him. That's Calvin Johnson talking about Dan Campbell playing for the 2008 Detroit Lions. Now, if that is, if we deserve better than that, I don't know what that looks like. So we're going to take a break. When we come right back, we're going to talk a little bit more about OTAs. We're into the second week of OTAs, and we're going to talk about Jared Goff looking pretty good right now. Who could have seen that? Maybe we'll talk some Tracy Walker, talk some running backs, and then later on the show, Jeremy is going to walk us through our preview of Lions minicamp. Stick around. We'll be right back on the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Boom!
Boo!
Put that one on the bulletin board.
Hey, chat, look, you're on the screen now. All right, let me catch up on alerts here because we got a whole bunch of alerts. And we just started a hype train thanks to Patman for the 5 months. First, we had Jumpty Jump in here with 10 months. Nick Slick with 6 months. Lion in London with 10 months says, hey, we have one of the best overall staffs below head coach. I stand by that. We barely even touched that surface, but you're right. I think that's another reason why Dan Campbell certainly has the support that a lot of people give him right now is because of the staff that he built. Whoa, slow down. I was just getting to it said Line in London. Captain James T. Kirk, I should say, with the 2 months in a row says 2 months, woo! Patman with the 5 months says great stuff, fellas. Beatty 1980 with the 3 months. Irwin NCL with the 100 bits, and just you're hearing right now, Lion in London with the 5 gifted subs, including one going to our good friend Brett Whitefield. Love to see that.
By the way, we have a bunch of new emotes if you haven't seen them yet.
Yes.
Also, Jeremy has added for 30,000 channel points, you can now summon the adequate luchador, which is my mask. I have spent my own channel points to put it on because I was going to start this, but now, if you want to summon this, like you can summon the mozzarella shirt, which someone did, Jeremy.
That's right. That's a good point.
Yep.
Who did that, and which shirt would you like? You've got your just the.
We're gonna have to put up different ones.
You've got the one that says
that was Garbear 2.
If you're still here, you want the I'm here for the mozzarella sticks, or literally the one that's just mozzarella sticks. Let me know in the chat.
I think you should put on the I'm here for mozzarella sticks. Yeah, Detroit, 5 more gifted subs.
Let's go.
Thank you, my man. Thank
Appreciate
you.
That. Woo-hoo. Why the hell hasn't Brett got his own sub? Yeah, I mean he doesn't hang out here that much. He was here for the draft, and he supports us in a lot. He supports our content by giving us some good content.
He's a break glass in case of emergency. We might try to have him on before the season, which we're only 3 months away from the season now. Oh my God, less than.
True. God, that's true.
Man.
Oh,
how's it going, Ryan?
Here's a fun tweet from Adam Schefter, y'all.
Uh-oh.
Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers is not expected to attend Green Bay's mandatory minicamp.
All right, but is he going to get fined or no?
That's the question. He is subject to almost $100,000 in fines. But not going to be there, and that's a significant play, right? Like the Packers have dug
That's the most important play.
Yeah, the Packers have dug their heels in and said, like, we're not trading him. Ball was in Aaron Rodgers' court, and this is a huge sign that, guess what? He's dug in too.
Yeah, this is
me making the slow Grinch smile face.
This is my making the shocked Pikachu face right now. Like, really? He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. I think we Ryan, I think we had talked before about like Deshaun Watson. Will he really act on, I think that we all knew he was going to act on what he was going to do before bleep hit the fan for him. We never really got to see that with the Texans because they stood by him, but this is the same thing. And now it's with someone who's even more stubborn and even more, I don't want to use the word petty, but he definitely holds grudges. Rodgers. Like, this is a man who cut his entire family, most of his family, out of his life over some past slights. Like, this is,
yeah, for sure. It's really going to just be so telling whether or not the Packers end up finding him, each day that he's not at mandatory minicamp. And I would venture to guess that they're not going to, because if they were, then that would send that. I mean, come on, that would only piss off. That goes nuclear. Yeah, that would only piss off Rodgers even more, right? So,
although they have reached that point, like I think who was it? It was a Packers executive saying like, this has divided our fan base, literally trying to putting it on Rodgers that you've turned our fans against each other.
Yeah, and it's clear that Rodgers doesn't want to play because he had a $500,000 workout bonus that he could have got.
Sure. No.
So he's already $500,000 in the hole.
Could be,
and each day he's away, another 100,000.
No. A total of 100,000 for the 3 days. It's about 93,000.
So he could be about 600,000 in the hole right now. Really,
and, and then I think once training camp comes around, like it's not optional to find him. The player gets fined for not showing up to training camp. So, I mean, that's far off. We're a month away. But it's interesting because I hear Packers fans talk about this, and since everything has gone right in their lives as Packers fans, a lot of them just assume this is going to work itself out. A lot of them just assume, like, Brett Favre threw a fit, and he's going to show up. He's going to eventually show up, then eventually get traded, and we're eventually going to have Jordan Love and eventually going to be fine. I think there's a lot of Packers fans that just assume, like, Aaron Rodgers will eventually come around.
Maybe the ones you see on Twitter. I know for at least for the two Packers fans I work with, they've already resigned themselves that Rodgers is out of town. So I think it's maybe they're just going through the stages of grief a little faster.
Maybe.
But I know at least one guy who ran a Packers podcast literally yelling at Aaron Rodgers, like, we made you. It's like, okay, man. But it's divided them for sure. I think that executive is absolutely right that it's divided their fans. It's just, I don't know how much.
It tickles me that there are just so many spoiled Packers fans out there that are just like, oh, we're going to be fine. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, even if he doesn't show up, we're just going to have Jordan Love. We'll be fine. It's just like, oh, so you're fine just losing last year's MVP. You're just fine losing a first ballot Hall of Famer who clearly has left, he clearly has stuff left to show. Okay, sure. Whatever you want, Packers fans. Keep throwing out your memes about how you're not paying attention to the rest of the NFC North and you're all high and mighty, but this is trouble. And I got a big old smile on my face when you guys are in trouble. I'm gonna put on a shirt, by the way.
I have something else. I don't know if we should save this for the podcast or not. Probably not. We can talk about it here. But Julio Jones and Carson Wentz both get traded in the 2021 calendar year, and neither of those players fetch a first-round pick for either of their teams.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell did the Lions get 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick and Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford?
Well, very carefully.
Yeah, real quick, Jeremy, you missed the beginning of the part, but I was saying, like,
Julio Jones,
and Carson Wentz, 2021, both get traded. Neither of them fetch a first-round draft pick. The Lions get 2 for Matthew Stafford.
So I think part of that is Julio Jones. And by the way, we're going to try something new for this podcast. These scraps that have been in between segments on Twitch, I'm going to try to edit them and put them together in a podcast that will go out on the podcast feeds. We'll call it the scraps. Look for them later. We're going to chop down a lot of the thank you for the sub stuff, but these kind of conversations you've been missing out in the recorded podcast, we want to preserve them. And I want to boost our download numbers because we're growing already again, and I want to keep boosting them. But to Ryan's question, I think Julio Jones, that was more the reality of he's a veteran wide receiver, and those just don't fetch first rounders. As much as people I think Julio's great, I just don't see the value there for that. For Wentz, I think it's just Wentz sucks. I'm sorry. Like, I know he had the MVP season, but he sucks. And I think Indy's in a bad place. But no, I know what you mean is that the Lions somehow got a king, like more than just a first round, but as you said, 2 first rounds, a quarterback, and a third rounder. Like, they got a king's ransom for Stafford. And I think that's more about Stafford than it is about Wentz and Julio Jones or the rest of the market. It's just, you know, we've had all the hot takes questioning how great Stafford is, but clearly the Rams and the rest of the market knew his value to be that great.
So then the question becomes, if Wentz does suck, which I am of the belief that he is less good than he is good.
Suck it.
Weren't we all just spending the offseason talking about how incredible Ed Dodds is and Chris Ballard and the Indianapolis Colts front office are a bunch of geniuses?
Yeah, that's what a lot of Colts fans are trying to educate me on. That they were desperately trying to educate me on while trying to email Jeremy asking for me to be fired for being unprofessional.
I mean, I do think things lined up so perfectly for the Lions in this instance, because the first thing I think that's maybe most important is they were out there first. They were the first one to have their quarterback on the market. They did it before everyone started panicking about, not that people didn't know about the salary cap and how troublesome it would be, but they got in even before free agency, before teams were balancing these contracts and all that sort of stuff, and they had a lot of bidders. And I think the Rams overpaid for Matthew Stafford? Yeah, I think they probably did, honestly. And they found a team that was just an absolute perfect fit for Matthew Stafford, because one, it's
and
a
their
team,
need for it, yeah.
It's a team that was, knocking on the door of a Super Bowl. It's a team that Matthew Stafford is more than happy to go to. And it's a team that has this philosophy of first-round picks aren't worth that much to us. We're willing to spend them to get to the next level. And Julio Jones goes on the market after free agency, after the draft, and sure, conversation
after the June 1st designation too.
Right. And yes, he was, I think people knew he was available before then, but they still have to fit a pretty hefty contract into the equation after everything is done. And that makes it trickier. And certainly a 32-year-old quarterback is more valuable than a 32-year-old wide receiver. But I think the Lions, and I think it's hard to argue, and really from the get-go, everyone was saying it, like the Lions got a ransom, and they should be happy with how they handled that situation. Again, there will always be the debate whether they should have taken the Carolina deal, and it's a debate worth having, but the Lions couldn't have handled that better from the get-go, and it really put a feather in Brad Holmes' cap from the start.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, Ryan, do you think, sorry if it's not Lions related, but do you feel like, as you yourself being a betting man, and someone else who watches the rest of the NFL too, though, does Julio Jones on the Titans move the needle for them, for you at all?
I think so. Big time. Big time for me. Yeah. It does, because here's the thing. Corey Davis just went out in a very depleted in terms of the contracts that teams were willing to give out. Corey Davis went out and he got paid.
Mm-hmm.
What is Julio Jones going to do in the Corey Davis role?
Mm.
And so if all of a sudden now you're going to give this extra attention to Julio Jones, well, AJ Brown, who was a Pro Bowler last year, well, he's gonna feast. And you know what? If you want to lock him up and you want to spread out your defense like that, well, Derrick Henry is in the backfield.
Yeah, it makes them much harder to scheme.
I don't think that any team in the NFL has the skill position players that the Tennessee Titans do. Like Tampa Bay Bucks included.
Ooh. It's a little bit
is it enough to move them up to maybe challenge the Chiefs in your mind for AFC favorite for the preseason, or are you still going with the Kansas City?
It's really hard because here's the thing: the Ryan Tannehill renaissance, right? I think everybody has this perception of Ryan Tannehill as being the guy who was in Miami under people like Joe Philbin, but Tannehill has completely resurrected his career in Tennessee. And you know what? Maybe it is a product of being surrounded with the kind of talent that they have. Their offensive line is solid. They have Derrick Henry. They have A.J. Brown. They've had these skill position players. But okay, they added one of the greatest wide receivers of all time who can still do it, who still has it. I don't see what, like, AFC championship game or bust.
Yeah, for me, what kind of, it moves the needle, but not as much for me just because it is Tannehill for me. Like, he can't really, like, Julio Jones will stretch the field for you. And I don't know if Tannehill has the arm to really do that sometimes. I know my Rams friends were very upset because they wanted to see Jones with Stafford because he would have been a perfect pairing for Stafford. But, I don't know how much more capital the Rams have to give away.
Well, I was going to say, too, if the Rams were able to pull that off, I would have to be just perplexed at how the salary cap works anymore.
Very carefully.
The weird thing to me about him landing in Tennessee, though, is that team was already good on offense. That was already the number 4 offense in the league in terms of points scored last year. Where they failed was defense. And I'm not so sure that they got better. Like, the room for them to improve on offense isn't that much, I don't think. And sure, like, just because you're fourth doesn't mean you can't be first by a wide margin. But, I mean, you're scoring 27 points a game. No, you're scoring 30.7 points per game last year.
Jeez, wow.
I mean, how much more can you really make that rate? How much more of a difference does Julio Jones make? And listen, it makes them better. There's no doubt about it. And they're a better offense than they were 2 days ago. No question about it. I'm just kind of wondering in terms of building an overall team, how much of a difference maker is he? And I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm not complaining if I'm a Titans fan right now. I'm just kind of curious as to what the plan is for the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I think from what Ryan was talking about, they did have to replace Corey Davis, and it does basically, again, like, it's just hard to plan for them now. You either, you defend inside and worry about Derrick Henry, or you stretch to worry about Julio Jones, and you can beat them if they go one way or another then.
Yeah, and I think that's a good question you asked, Jeremy, but if 3 of their first 4 draft picks, defensive side of the ball. Like, they may have hit the lottery with Caleb Farley.
Relying on rookies, I don't know if that's a good strategy.
But hey, all I'm saying is that I think what they did this offseason, they didn't completely ignore that side of the ball.
Sure.
And I'm right there with you. I think relying on rookies will only get you in trouble. But if those rookies can be propped up by the other side of the ball, like almost scoring at will, because here's the one, Chris, Patrick Mahomes is both of our large adult son.
Our ketchup loving son.
Yeah, we share custody over the Kermit voiced thrower of perfect spirals and all the trick passes.
Go Tigers.
In Ryan Tannehill's last 24 starts with the Titans, he's had better numbers than Patrick Mahomes. A 114 QB rating, 61 total touchdowns to just 10 interceptions, and a 67.7 completion percentage. Like, all of those numbers are better than what Pat Mahomes has done in the past 24 games with the Chiefs.
One more point to that, though. Like, who gets a lot of that credit, though? Who got a lot of the credit for making him for turning around his quarterback career? Arthur Smith.
Bill Belichick.
Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, who is now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah,
just something to think about.
I think if you're the Colts or a Colts fan, you've got to be kind of worried though, because
sure.
Again, like, now you've traded away everything you've traded away quite a bit for Carson Wentz. He's your quarterback now. I don't know if that's the right move. And guess what? The Titans just got better. Like, you were in a dead heat with them on a 16-game schedule last year. They edged you out for the AFC South, and the Titans just got better. And I don't know if the Colts really got that much better.
Texans got worse, though. That's the good news.
Yeah, somehow that is expected. That is expected, and Jacksonville won't be a threat. It's going to be Indianapolis and Tennessee, but I have to solidly give the edge now to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Maybe I did before this trade, but like, again, maybe that's how it moves the needle for me. I know I just said it didn't move the needle as much as it did for Ryan, but yeah. But I'm just glad to not see him in the NFC, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, because he could have, I know that in the Albert Breer article, he mentioned that like almost every NFC West team gave the Falcons a call.
Yeah, they didn't. None of them gave an offer, but all of them gave him a call, which is just a scary thought. I mean, the NFC West is literally in an arms race right now, and
it's a nuclear arms race at this point.
As a Lions fan, it's almost like a mixed thing because, like, all right, well, if they're all trying to take down the Rams, that technically is good for the Lions. But also, you just don't want to see more NFC teams get good because eventually the Lions kind of want to be in contention and they're not going to just be playing for draft picks.
Yeah. I do have to apologize though then to Jeremy because I did see, speaking of Julio Jones, I did see out today that he did not know he was live on Undisputed.
Yep.
There was some scub. Some people actually thought that wasn't him. That it was like a bit someone was doing with that Shannon Sharp was calling up some sort of actor or something. No. It was Julio Jones. He just didn't know he was live on air, that's fantastic. I don't know if you're mad about it, but
I thought one of the most interesting things about the Breer piece was how long ago this all started, like where this stemmed from. Like This has been going on for a couple of years with Julio. And I love the emphasis on Nick Saban being like, the domino that tipped everything over. Like Nick Saban's good word on Julio Jones was what, made the Titans feel comfortable about pulling the trigger. Not the fact that the dude is been put up insane stats, and
Nick Saban was his coach a dozen years ago. If you're going to judge me, on the person I was 12 years ago, you're not getting the right scouting report.
Yeah. Are you going to call my boss who I quit my job because I wanted to coach powder puff football? Like that's going to be my judge of character.
A dozen years ago, I was living in Canada and I was a depressed wreck of a human being. Someone requested a Ruby cameo. He's right there. He is sleeping, so per Ruby rules, I will not wake him up. Maybe I'll grab him little later when he is up and about, but he's very peaceful right now. Lefty Detroit with 5 gifted subs, by the way. Thank you.
I was going to get to that. Yep. 5 more. He's up to 395 for the channel.
Yep. And Rob Goth 328, welcome back. You have subscribed with Prime. Yes. 5 months running now.
Which is a good. Actually, let me take the moment because I haven't really pushed our Twitch in general. If you're new to Twitch or you're just a lurker, the reason we like this platform, besides it being extremely interactive and we get to do a bunch of fun stuff and play video games and all that, is it makes it really easy for you guys to support us in any sort of way that you want, whether it's just watching us, giving us a view, giving us a click, giving us a retweet, whatever it is. But if you do want to support us in any sort of financially way, one easy way that doesn't cost you even a thing is to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. That allows you to use one subscription per month on any page that you want. If you want to use it here, great. If not, that's fine too. But you have to renew it every month. And like I said, it's free, kicks us a little extra money. Or you can subscribe to us for $4.99 a month on your own. There's also tiered subscriptions where you can donate more than that. Or, and this is something that we don't really ever advertise, but is an option out there that you should know about if you don't want to mess with subscriptions and resubbing and all that sort of stuff. You can just donate straight to the channel as well. There's a button if you're on your computer, there's a donate button. If you scroll down, if you're on your phone, if you hit ! Donate, a link will pop up. You can donate to that. Not trying to press you guys into anything, but if you've ever wanted to support Pride of Detroit in any sort of way and a subscription-based method seemed a little too complicated, that's the way you can do it.
Yeah, I know we just got Ryan like a new microphone and everything, so
yes,
we
appreciate
that. we do need these for tax write-offs. So, I do want to say too, as someone who sat and watched like about 8 of the 24 hours of Dan Le Batard's Freedom 24-hour stream too, like I think this is where a lot of sports media is going, is literally what we've been doing, this kind of live streaming stuff too. So if you guys can support us, it'll allow us to make it even bigger than it is. It'll become more of our strategy, and we'll just keep doing great things with it.
We'll try to
apparently it's the only thing we own. So
Not saying anything.
I'm also going to try to find interesting ways to give back. One thing I've been thinking is like a bit menu. Like a lot of people have specific bit alerts, so that if you donate a very specific amount of bits, then like something neat pops up, or the streamers do something else. Like I was thinking, like if someone donates 313 bits, like we could have something to
like a sound alert or something.
Yes,
or
a
like
something Detroit related, or if someone donates 81 bits, we'll
like
have
a Calvin
emotes
Johnson like pop up on the screen or something.
Yeah. So if you guys have any ideas about that, of either bit menus that we can do special alerts, you can always go into our Discord. We have a suggestion box. We want to make things that are fun for you guys, and those of you that are subscribers, if you want a special kickback, we want to make it special for you as well. Whether you're using your Amazon Prime, whether you're gifting a bunch of subs, we're always trying to make it more fun for you guys we want to make it worth your while, so that you're not just throwing money at us.
Yeah, I think if you give us 313 bits, we should very ironically have Detroit Rock City play.
Well, we gotta be careful about.
I don't want to add more
DMCA
sound.
rules.
I don't want to add more sounds to this thing. I think what we should do instead is maybe I see these people with the exploding emojis across the screen. Yeah. Like just whatever emojis you spam in chat suddenly explode on the screen or something. We should allow them to do that, and maybe that's like just, I don't know, Gene Simmons' face and tongue.
Oh, just like a tongue waggling.
Yeah. One of those godforsaken face paint jobs they do. If I donate 0 bits, can I get an Orlovsky running out of the end zone to commemorate 0 wins? What was Orlovsky's number? Was it 8?
8, I believe. Yeah.
6.
Was it 6?
Was it 6?
It might have been 6.
I think he might have went back and forth between a couple of them.
Either way, whatever his number is, yes.
Yeah, or maybe just like specific highlights, and I mean, probably wouldn't be legal to put Dan Miller's call on it, but I mean, we have that with our special alert, and it's not
we have
a big
the
deal.
GIFs, we have the videos, we can do that without the sound. So yeah.
There should be some sound, just to make it special.
Yeah, sure.
Dan wore 3 different numbers with the Detroit Lions.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, he was number 6 in the 2008 season. He was number 8 in his final year with Detroit. Do you know what his number was when he first came to Detroit?
Ooh,
I don't. But I have my fingers crossed is what I really, really hope it is.
It was not 69.
No, I hope it was 2, and it was just a sign that he was going to get safetied in a serious way sometime down the road.
It couldn't have been 9. It wasn't 9, was it? It was 9?
Yeah, it was 9.
Oh. Wow. And he didn't give it up to Stafford because he was 6 by 2008. Yeah. But yeah. Oh wow.
It was. And then the quarterback who was 8 when he was in Detroit was
it wasn't Harrington, was it?
Kitna.
Oh, that's right.
Kitna. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So did Dan Orlovsky
blowing my
give his number to John Kitna? What a man! Remember when we didn't have quarterbacks? That was a sad time. That lasted.
We got
50
Joey
years.
Harrington in there. Who remembers Garcia?
Moonball Garcia.
Who remembers Lions legend Dante Culpepper?
Culpepper.
You can roll on.
Wow.
Let's not play this game. I think we get?
Oh, no.
Someone keeps joking. Someone at work keeps joking that I'm always our friend Jonas Knox, who's been on the show. He always, when he introduces me on his radio show, he always likes to joke that I am desperately trying to find a signed Scott Mitchell jersey.
I think 19 is a good number for quarterbacks. I think it's an underrated number for quarterbacks.
Anything with double digits seems like an underrated number for quarterbacks. It also seems weird too.
Highly.
I like 19. Why not? Why don't you like it?
I don't know. I like the single digits in
You
general.
like the single digits?
There's a reason why every cornerback wants single digits is because they're cool. Someone requested Tazu, by the way, and this is a very late redemption of it. Hey, big boy, you didn't get dinner yet.
Charlie Batch Gang rise up. Andre Ware, Scott Mitchell, Charlie Batch, Gagliano,
Nobody said my favorite quarterback yet.
Rodney Pete.
No.
Well,
Mike
if it's not
McMahon.
Dante.
Charlie
Oh,
Batch?
McMahon. Wow.
Mike
wow.
McMahon.
What? That doesn't fit you at all.
It doesn't.
I could have sworn you were a Dante Culpepper guy.
He was mobile.
That's all that matters.
Eric Kramer.
It was that all
Eric
along.
Kramer.
Why are we doing this to ourselves right now?
Because we're not back in segment yet.
It's true.
Yeah, can we go back on air? I'm hungry and I want to order nachos.
Ew.
Do you remember last time you
Nachos
ordered
delivery?
nachos?
Not Taco Bell this time. That was a mistake that I paid for 36
Look, here's
hours.
nachos.
But I can't imagine a worse food to get delivered than nachos, because by the time they get to you, they're going to be soggy.
I can think of several foods worse than that.
So the Mexican restaurant by our house it's I'm not gonna say it's within walking distance because it's on a 50-mile-an-hour road, but it's like 30 seconds down the road.
Okay.
In a car.
Okay.
So it gets here relatively quick.
All right.
Fair enough.
I'll send you pics.
Gus Farrat, Jesus.
Oh,
Mr. Head into a Wall, Gus Farrat.
oh yeah, that's right.
Concussed himself by celebrating in the weirdest way possible. I would get sushi delivered. That can't be that bad.
Little sketch, maybe.
It is very sketch. I wouldn't. Well, the thing too is like once you have like sushi with like someone who actually knows how to make sushi rice, hard to go back. Everyone else like uses like cold rice, and it's like, why are you doing that?
The most disappointing thing about sushi is that you can't really do leftovers.
No. I mean, that's the thing too, is like this idea that you order a platter. Most sushi places, you're supposed to go there and the chef like, prepares each piece and you're just kind of eating there. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a experience. Sushi is one of those type of cuisine where it's like, okay, this is something you're supposed to eat at the restaurant. It's just we've all been conditioned with, overdressed sushi rolls that this is like, oh, it's a takeout food. And it's like, no, not really. You lose a lot of like, I'm sorry, I'm being a weeb about this now, but like,
no, I don't think so.
The warm, like, again, I this is why I push Kengo and Toledo a lot, because they get it, right? The rice is warm. It's got the nice kick of both vinegar and sugar to it that you're supposed to have for sushi rice. The fish is like super fresh, but it's absolutely not something you can get as an experience. I mean, you can order it to go if you want. It doesn't match what it is when you're sitting at a counter and the chef just hands you like 3 pieces on a tray, and you just kind of sit there and just kind of absorb it.
You don't have to call yourself a weeb. You're a purist. That's what you are, Chris.
I mean, we all already know he's a weeb, so he doesn't need to
say that's true.
Yeah.
All right, we should get back into it. We're already on out. We just passed the hour mark of streaming, and we haven't even hit segment 2.
I'm sorry. Welcome back to the Pride of Detroit PODcast as we move along from the national media to local coverage by us on OTAs. And we've, I think Jeremy and Ryan and everyone else at Pride of Detroit, Eric, we've beaten to death the OTAs. And yet somehow we're going to keep going at them because they're what we have right now. This is June. We are starving. This season will sneak up on us, but until then, we have a bunch of shows to entertain you. On that programming note, by the way, listcasts are coming very soon. But for now, let's talk about OTAs. Jeremy, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, let's just start with what I think was one of the bigger stories from Thursday, and that was how good Jared Goff looked. We got a lot more 7-on-7 looks during practice. He basically had 3 sessions, and he went something like 16 of 20 or 17 of 20, had command of the offense, found various targets. And the one thing I was looking for that we didn't get during the previous sessions, whether it was rookie minicamp, obviously Jared Goff wasn't there, but or the previous week of OTAs, deep passes. The very first play of 7-on-7s during OTAs last Thursday was Jared Goff corking a ball downfield, beating Will Harris, and basically what amounted to like a 60-yard touchdown pass. And so I was impressed by it. And maybe the reason I was so impressed with him was because Tim Boyle looked the exact opposite. Like the guy went 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 on his first set of 7-on-7s. Everything that, whether it was Tom Silverstein or any of the other Packers beat, that was like, this guy's going to challenge Jared Goff for the starting job. Yeah, no, that's absolutely 100% not going to happen. This job is Jared Goff's. The only way he loses it is via injury, and I'm going to go ahead and say that's going to be true for the entire season. Jared Goff is your quarterback. He looked pretty good, and let's also put this into complete perspective. 7-on-7s are highly in favor of the offense. If Jared Goff did not look good during 7-on-7s, that would be a problem. He's also probably going against the weakest point on this Lions team, which is their secondary. There's still a lot of questions about their secondary. Will Harris did not look particularly good on Thursday. That's a concern. Safeties are a concern. Corners are young. That all being said, he's not dealing with a great wide receiving core. He's not seeing the benefits of a good offensive line because there's no offensive line on 7-on-7s. Jared Goff looked pretty darn good, and I'm willing to at least be a little bit optimistic about that, even though he needed to be good.
Yeah, I think I was impressed by him. I think it's not going to move the needle for a lot of fans because I think a lot of fans have already just made up their mind on who Jared Goff is. For good or for ill, you either believe in Jared Goff. Again, going back to our first segment, he's either your quarterback or you've decided that this guy is just not good. And there's plenty of people who I don't think, I don't know. I have some reservations in that it is 7-on-7s. And the one thing Jared Goff has always kind of had spook him in recent years has been pressure.
Sure.
Yep. You didn't really get a ton of pressure right now. I mean, granted, if the offensive line plays as well, maybe that's not true. Maybe he doesn't get pressured too much in the regular season too. But, right now in practice, he's not going to be seeing the kind of live wire pressure that really screwed him up at the end in Los Angeles. But I think what impressed me though, Jeremy, and you mentioned it, is the deep ball throwing, right? People question his arm sometimes, and he was able to get it out. He was able to let it fly, and he was fairly accurate with it.
Yeah, and I think I'm where Jeremy left off in the sense that this was just one of those boxes that Jared Goff needed to check, because if he didn't, then that would be a huge cause for concern.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but here's the thing: he cleared that hurdle nonetheless. So, I mean, like we're on to the next step. We're on to bigger and better things. Like, if Jared Goff would have struggled, then maybe questions about his arm strength or questions about anything else with Jared Goff would all of a sudden be a lot more valid than they are. So it's the 2021 Detroit Lions, a work in progress.
Yep. So far on track.
Yes, so far on track.
Nothing's broken yet.
Oh, was that?
I kind of like that.
Was that an IndyCar pun? Back on track?
Maybe. Is this car talk?
No.
How do we not have car talk?
We retired car talk. We retired car talk. Do not bring up car talk ever again.
In the first segment?
I mean, we really should have had it in the first segment. But anyways, I would say that maybe one of the more secondary storylines last week was getting Michael Brockers back there, a veteran, and I think a guy who's going to be an important voice in this team, considering they draft 2 defensive tackles that are going to play a big part in this team's future. You got a guy like Michael Brockers, who's a great locker room presence, a guy who is going to know exactly what this team is going to want from the front 4, front 3, however many people they're going to have on the front. And one of the more interesting things, and I wrote about it this week, was what he had to say about Aaron Glenn. And get ready to lick your lips, Ryan, because I know you're an Aaron Glenn stan. But Michael Brockers, a guy who has been around some damn good defensive coordinators, Wade Phillips, Brandon Staley, he says just in 2-3 months of Zoom meetings and this 1 week of in-person meetings, he says Aaron Glenn is, quote, 100% the best communicator I've ever been around. Now, we played coach speak or OTA, or I don't remember what the game was called, but
real talk or coach speak.
Real talk or coach speak. This is either real talk or player speak, but to me, that carries a lot of weight from a dude, and granted, like, he's in a new team, and of course he's going to say good things about his coaches, but that's pretty damn high praise from a guy who's been around the league for 9 years.
It's not surprising whatsoever, though, because he's probably talking the language that Michael Brockers is well versed in.
Sure.
He's a former player. He's a guy who has done it. So Michael Brockers is in a really comfortable situation where, the lines of communication are loud and clear. So, I mean, but dude, this is why I was so excited about getting Aaron Glenn. Like, he's a guy who is not too far removed from the game, playing it at a high level. And wow, you know what? He rose up the ranks, and he had to, be a intern scout, and he had to work for the Jets of all places. I mean, come on. I mean, the guy has really, he's finally as close to making it as he can without becoming a head coach, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later. So I'm pumped about this.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the angle on it is like he wants to be a head coach, right? So this is all just good bulletin board material of, like, look how well I communicate with my guys. Look how well I communicate with my veterans. Like, he's checking all those boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but this is also not the first time we heard players excited to be playing for Aaron Glenn that had a relationship with him. I mean, Michael Brockers, who knows what kind of relationship that he had with Aaron Glenn prior to this, but Jeff Okudah was somebody who was ecstatic when the Aaron Glenn hire was made.
Yep.
And because he worked with him at it was a defensive back camp, I think it was, right?
Yeah, some sort of thing right out of high school. It was like a competitive summer camp or something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Aaron Glenn. Good.
And then, his first week working with Aaron Glenn, Jeff Okudah says something like, the stuff I've learned in 2 weeks or stuff that I wish I had learned at any point during my rookie season. And so he's a good communicator. He's giving cornerbacks valuable information. And here's to further on the Michael Brockers quote. He says, just being a player who's played in this league, he has that understanding of that perspective of being a player. So when you ask him a question or something like that, he can definitely answer your question where you need to be. It seems like such a basic thing, but it's something that the Lions are doing across their entire coaching staff. Former players that know how to play the game, know what questions are going to be asked, therefore can answer them from a player perspective. And it's fascinating what the Lions are doing. And we talked a little bit about this during the locker room, is that what the Lions are doing feels very unique with their coaching staff. And every bit of feedback so far has been positive. But again, you have to kind of pull the curtain back and be like, well, okay, everything is supposed to be positive right now. If anything negative is coming out of camp, something is very wrong, because this is the time where, it's just like, it's a PR dream. Like, this is just a mini camp, OTAs.
It's Kool-Aid season.
It's mostly a PR stunt. Like, obviously they're getting stuff done on the field, but in terms of the media coverage of OTAs and mini camp, it's a PR stunt. It's everyone getting themselves hyped and all that sort of stuff. That being said, it feels at least a little bit different. The Lions are trying something new. The Lions are trying something that the players are getting behind. And I do feel like the players are being genuine. I can tell you for sure, and this maybe this will transition to what I want to talk about next. Tracy Walker, you can tell when that dude is being genuine. And you can tell when he has something to say, and he won't outright say it, but he'll kind of intimate it. Like when he says, I guess this is how I'll put it. I'm having fun now. Like, we know what he's saying when he says, I'm having fun now. I wasn't having fun before. And now he's having fun.
I was going to say, you could drive a semi-truck through the lines that you're supposed to read.
Yeah. and I pulled this big quote from him where he's just, again, it's the former players that really bring this coaching staff a lot of respect. And so Forgive me for reading a long quote. And I guess it's also about their track record as coach, because Tracy Walker says, with the previous safeties that they've coached, they've made a lot of plays. Von Bell, Marcus Williams, those guys are Pro Bowlers. That speaks for itself. Malcolm Jenkins. I can keep going. They were all great safeties, and they all made a lot of plays. Like I said, they all listened to AG, Aaron Glenn, and AP, Aubrey Pleasant. He's the same way. I feel like those guys have coached some of the best corners and safeties in the NFL, and I feel like they're going to help transform my game, and I'm listening to them, and I'm bought in all the way. I'm bought in all the way.
Yeah, I again, going back to our first segment, again, part of it is PR, right? Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know how much better you can sell this right now with this coaching staff on getting guys to buy in. And you can think Dan Campbell wearing a racing helmet is bad, but it's the same way Bill Parcells took over with his personality, his stories, his kind of infectious attitude. It's this coaching staff has figured out a different model to go on. It's not an adversarial model. It's not this pressure cooker model. We're all worrying about our jobs. It's this model of, again, half these guys were players. They're all learning. They're all in this together, and it feels. I've said it before. When a former NFL player becomes a coach, it does make it feel like they're still part of that team, and we got that when we talked with Deuce Staley, right? About how he wishes he was still out there. He acts like he's still out there sometimes, and I'm sure that goes on down, and that helps with communicating to your actual players. Yes,
I mean. A happy player is going to play better than a pissed off player, plain and simple. And it's abundantly clear. And maybe this isn't true across the board. Trey Flowers is kind of an interesting case study. I don't know if he's going to be happier under this coaching staff or not. But for the guys that were underperforming, the guys that need to turn around their careers before it's over, those guys, the Jeff Okudas, the Tracy Walkers, those guys are happier. And there's nothing wrong with having it. And it's legitimate. I can't tell you how clear it is to me that these players are happier than they were last year. It's not just a PR stunt. These guys are legitimate happier. And again, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be better. Doesn't necessarily mean Tracy Walker's suddenly going to be a Pro Bowler. We don't know that yet. But they're going to be happier, and that's something. That's something. And to kind of bounce off your point, and maybe we'll transition into my next point here, having former players still feel like they're part of the team, that is 1,000% showing up at OTAs. Because you mentioned Deuce Staley and what he said to us, sometimes he's bouncing up and down on the sidelines. Well,
I think you mentioned before too, Mark Brunell has we were even joking, hey, Mark Brunell could just be your guy at practices and everything. Maybe Mark Brunell's going to throw the football around there a little bit sometimes too. Who knows?
But Deuce Staley got in Alex Anzalone's face after Jamal Williams shook the crap out of him and took a pass for 50 yards. He got in his face what are you going to do now? He was a player out there. And it was fun, and it was ridiculous. And maybe Alex Anzalone didn't appreciate it. Who knows? But I bet Jamal Williams sure did, because Jamal Williams was stunting on him too. And that's just kind of the fun energy that they're bringing. And like I said, it might not work for everybody. And that's the key, is they're going to have to reach everybody. And that's one thing that we kept saying about Matt Patricia. Yes, you can be an authoritative type, and yes, there are going to be certain people that respond to that, but there are also going to be a lot of players that don't. And so the same works on the other side. You can be all fun, you can be all raucous, you can get in your own players' face and be fun with it, but you also have to reach those other guys that might not appreciate that. And that's something we don't know if it's going to turn out or not. But for now, I would say the coaching staff has gotten overwhelmingly positive reviews from the players, not just the fans.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about some other running backs making good impressions at OTAs? Yeah.
Well, okay. So OTAs are interesting.
Talk about destruction
for running backs, because you can't judge a running game during OTAs. There are very, very rarely any team drills that involve offensive line versus defensive line, because contact's not allowed, because pads aren't on. So you can't judge the running game at all. I think Anthony Lynn came out and said that. OTAs, minicamp, they're just not for the running game. So what we're going to do instead is put those guys out wide. We're going to see that we're going to put the guys fish out of water, as he put it, see what they can do on the edges as wide receivers or scat backs or whatever. And guess what? They look damn good doing it. They look damn good doing it, and that should get you. I mean, if you're in a PPR league, look at me talking wrestling and fantasy football in one
fantasy
podcast.
football out of Jeremy. Oh my god,
Deandre Swift. My goodness, and you could either look at this as a glass half full, half empty. They put Trey Flowers on Deandre Swift, and it went just about as good as you would expect. I know some people were already wringing their hands about putting Trey Flowers at outside linebacker because he's going to have to cover. Well, let's hope to God that the other teams don't have a Deandre Swift, because my goodness, he had that guy beaten in an instant. And Jamal Williams can do it too. Like I said, like he beat Alex Anzalone in an instant. And so that's an underrated part, I think, of Jamal Williams' game. But I think that's something that, I mean, we could see 60, 70 catches out of Deandre Swift this year. And maybe it was just them using him in that situation because, like I said, they have to, because you can't get anything out of the running game right now. But if they were testing Deandre Swift as a fish out of water out wide, that dude is a salamander. He's fine.
Well, that thing about DeAndre Swift is what made him like Pro Football Focus's number one running back, in 2020. Like his receiving ability. Yeah. They thought that it would be really easy for him to translate playing the slot and doing other various things that, life as an NFL running back kind of demands of you now. And I just thought it was so interesting to both these points, Jeremy. Like, I mean, you can't really judge them on their running prowess in OTAs, but they're at least making an impact where we see this offense as being kind of without an identity at all whatsoever, because there's all of this influx of new players and new talent. And, the wide receiver room looks almost completely different aside from Quintez Cephas. Geronimo Allison won't even recognize it, right? But you look at the running backs, and it's like that's where the identity of the team kind of lies. And the only guy who's a holdover is Swift, which I think is where you come to a crux where it's like, okay, but where does Todd Gurley fit in then? So, like, I mean, what do we do with Todd Gurley? Because the comments that the coaching staff made it seem like they really want Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Campbell literally said those words, like, yeah, we still want Todd Gurley. And that in and of itself is just kind of, wait, did you just say that? Like, you just said that about a free agent? Okay. But yeah, I mean, and then the Anthony Lynn and Deuce Staley also mentioned him and said very good things and said, like, yeah, if he will help the Detroit Lions. So I maybe would stop short of saying it's going to happen. It's bound to happen, but I feel like there's a pretty good chance it happens. The Lions still have one free roster spot, and maybe they're just working out numbers, or maybe Todd Gurley doesn't want to go to mandatory minicamp, so they do it after mandatory minicamp. Who knows? But either way, like, it seems like he's probably going to be part of the equation. So what is that part of the equation? What do you guys think?
I think it's third string running back, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to get too worried about that. I know some other fans, as soon as you tied the name Todd Gurley to the Lions, people on Twitter got really upset about the idea and thought it was a dumb thing. And it's probably the same camp that probably doesn't think that highly of Jared Goff. And I get it, because both of them fell off around the same time.
Yep.
And I think when it comes to Todd Gurley, it's more of a puzzle to figure out, because like with Jared Goff, on where he fell out, it was his weaknesses that just got exposed a little bit more, be it pressure on his blind side or just his accuracy sometimes. But for Gurley, I have no other word to describe what happened in Gurley's career other than the yips. Just, he was great one day, he woke up another day, and suddenly he just didn't have it anymore. And I know we've talked about it before on a former stream, Jeremy, like because I think yips can be overcome. You can come back for them. But your point, and I respect it a lot, is that for a running back, for that position where injuries just pile up, and your micro injuries even more so, just you're getting hit time and time and time and time again. Like, it is much harder to come back from that kind of stuff when you are a running back, to find your stride again. I just don't see any potential signing as being a disaster, because he would be third string. He will get touches, but I don't think those touches are stealing anything away from Swift or Jamal Williams. If it does, then that happens during the season. But I can't sit here right now and say, oh, I'm worried about him stealing touches, because A, that would imply that the Lions are just going to use him like Patricia used Adrian Peterson, which we don't know that. You don't know this new offense, and you don't know what their role is. But again, he would be third string. Because I just don't see him, unless he makes a clear return to form, he would be third string right now. He'd be behind Swift for certain, and he would probably almost definitely be behind Jamal Williams. So I wouldn't be worried about it too much. I think it's one of those flyers that you maybe take, and yeah, maybe there's some better third strings out there, but it's third string running back. I think it's probably inevitable. It probably will happen after mini camp.
Yeah, I mean, Todd Gurley also tore his ACL in college, so
yeah.
When they found out that a guy who was in his mid-20s was already having arthritis in his left knee, I mean, that's like you said, Chris. I think to your point is like he had it and then he didn't have it. There wasn't anything that major happened to Todd Gurley while he was with the Rams. It was just like this degenerative knee problem, and it is it's freakish in the sense that somebody who was clearly at the top of the league in terms of running backs, was there 1 minute and then gone the next. Who knows if he can ever capture it again? But at the same time, Adrian Peterson led this team in carries last year. So anybody who's worried about not getting enough DeAndre Swift this year is just insane. Like, you're going to get a lot of DeAndre Swift. Don't worry about how many touches he's going to get.
To me, the question of this always becomes of what's in it for Todd Gurley? That's the head scratching part for me. Maybe that's why it hasn't happened yet, because Todd Gurley has always been the guy. His entire career, he's been the guy. I don't think he's ever had less than like 180 carries in a season in his 6-year career. And now he's not only not going to be the guy, like Chris said, he's third string here. Let's not get
I think maybe he realizes this is like, I need to do it here as third string to show that I'm useful, or else I'm completely done. I think that might be what it is.
Maybe, but you have to imagine there's a place somewhere where he could potentially get more carries than a third stringer in Detroit, a team that might be playing from behind every game this season.
Maybe, unless his reputation, like, again, we've seen what Lions fans are reacting to Todd Gurley. That's got to be across the league after his Atlanta stint.
Yeah,
like,
there's no question his stock is down, but
it's cratered, man. He's a penny stock right now.
Yeah, I don't, and I guess that's the point that we should drive home is like, if the Lions sign Todd Gurley, they're not going to be breaking the bank for him. It's clear that he's going to be in that third role because they spent a lot on Jamal Williams, because they still very, very, very much believe in DeAndre Swift. So it's not going to be a huge role for him. And listen, he brings a little experience to the backfield. The Lions, they don't have a ton of experience in the backfield right now. I think I want to say it was Deuce Staley who mentioned his leadership, his love of the game, that sort of thing, being a value to the room. So I'm willing to believe him there. But yeah, tangible on the field, I don't think the Lions are going to get much out of him other than kind of a break glass in case of emergency option.
I think so. I think it's unlikely. People keep saying, "Oh, maybe we can like bring him on to be a player coach or whatever." I don't see that likely. No, he wants to play football.
About that last week. I joked about that. Yeah. That was sarcastic.
I know, but I saw it being. I know, but I saw some people regurgitating it seriously, Jeremy. That's your power. That is your power.
I have to be careful with these.
Very careful with your magic hands. Yeah.
Some would say, with great power comes great responsibility, Jeremy.
I wouldn't say that. I don't like Spider-Man.
Who?
Anyway, but thank you very much for that. Let's put a bow on that. Hey, guess what? We've talked enough about minicamp. We keep hinting at minicamp. Let's preview minicamp. We're going to do that next, coming up on the third segment of the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Okay.
Let's catch up on alerts real quick. We had Celtic with the 100 bits. Oh, I also may have forgotten. Did we get Rob Gaw? I think we did with the 5 months using that Twitch Prime. Celtic with the 100 bits. Then Captain James Kirk with 10 bits. Oh, yeah, we did get that one as well. The donate 0 bits. Orlovsky. That's true. We got that one too. And then Nick the Greek, our good friend, says, "Bring out the GIMP. Welcome back, Chris."
No, he said Christ.
He did say Christ. You're right. You're right. He did say Christ.
Yeah. Why? Come on, Chris Irwin. What did I do? Did I say something about Gurley? I'm not ready to completely throw in the towel. I kind of root for him. Oh, Spider-Man. Oh, okay. No, I think Ryan will attest this. Well, I'm very against this whole Disney Marvel thing right now because it's awful. Also, B, I grew up more of a DC guy, so I never read Spider-Man ever.
I respect Spider-Man. I just think they need like one more reboot. Then I'll feel good.
You heard it here first, folks. Jeremy will not respect Spider-Man without a reboot. Jeremy lacking in Spider-Man respect.
Like I haven't quite picked up the origin story of Spider-Man yet. I think I need one more reboot to really drive it home. Was it his Uncle May that he lived with? It was Uncle May.
No, you see, his parents took him to see the Mark of Zorro, and they got held up outside of the theater.
Yep.
And there was the pearls, and they both got shot. And
then from that moment,
I'm being told by our invisible producer that I'm thinking of Superman.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. And then Batman's the alien outcast guy, right? Like he had some sort of freakish accident that made him an alien or something.
Batman,
and then he had that watch that turns him into other aliens.
We're doing a very boomer thing here where we just it's like when Belichick goes out there and he says, I don't know about Snapface or InstaChat, when he totally knows what those things are. Like that's what we're doing here.
Guys have all this wrong. It was when two spiders had sex. They made a spider. They made a Spider-Man.
When a spider
Where did the man DNA come from?
Sex.
And why? Yeah. Do not ever say sex like you did that time. Two spider had sex.
Please stick to football, guys. Truer words have never been spoken by our Twitch chat.
Sorry. Once you get me talking about superhero, I can't go to the movies anymore. There's nothing for me anymore. It makes me sad.
Yeah, well, you can thank everyone getting up on superhero movies for that.
Yeah, and
now we get
so many people have ironically watched fucking Fast and the Furious that there's 18 billion of them.
Oh no! Well, who was doing that?
Yeah, who do we have to blame for that?
I did it once in a 24-hour period.
Did you see that they wanted to like cross over? I think this is more of a question for Ryan.
Hell yeah!
Cross over Jurassic Park and Fast and the Furious.
Yes. Why wouldn't
Don driving a Charger near a cliff and then kicking a Velociraptor out the door of his Charger off the cliff? That'd be awesome.
How fun does that sound?
That sounds amazing.
How fun?
Be better than the second Jurassic World by like 1,000,000 miles.
You would have Ludacris riding a brontosaurus. Who doesn't want to see that?
Excuse me, it's a brachiosaur.
True.
It sounds like fan fiction at this point.
I'll take it over this Marvel stuff, Jeremy.
I want to see John Cena get into a fist fight where he F5s a
John
dinosaur.
Cena, hot take time. John Cena is a
F5.
very...
Oh man, it's FU. I'm terrible. I'm an awful wrestling fan. Bury me.
John Cena is a terrible addition to Fast and Furious. I don't think it's going to work like he thinks it is.
It's not true. He has hair now, Chris.
Magically has hair again, huh?
If he was with less hair, then I think it would kind of infringe on Diesel's gimmick. I think you can only have so many bald men in one.
But I also think you can only have so many former pro wrestlers as actors at any given moment, and I think between The Rock and Batista, there's just no room for him.
But isn't Batista actually good?
Yes, he is. Batista's good. The Rock has been good forever. I just don't think John Cena's found that groove like either of those guys did.
Yeah, I guess the greatest thing that John Cena's done up to this point is Trainwreck. And that didn't require a whole lot of heavy lifting.
I mean, the guy was in blockers.
Yeah.
Apatosaurus, someone is telling me.
But, I mean, isn't that the point of Fast and Furious movies is just to pack too much into it?
Yeah, but there's still an art of how much you pack too much into it. Like the idea of Idris
the fact
Elba
that you just
as a
you just
combat
refer to
cyborg.
You refer to the Fast and Furious as art. There's an art to Fast. No, there isn't.
There's an art to schlock.
It's become Sharknado.
It's an art to schlock. No. There's an art to schlock because Idris Elba as a combat cyborg is inspired. John Cena as FBI agent number 283 or whatever he's going to be, not inspired. I'm sorry.
You bring up a good point, but Jeremy, I want to actually give you the answer to your question. The goal of a Fast and Furious movie is to be too fast and too furious. Did you ever see a Fast and Furious movie in theaters?
No, I've only seen Fast and Furious movies in that 24-hour span. That is the only time I've ever seen it,
Christ.
and it's probably the only time I ever will see it. I will not see it outside of that 24-hour. I'm not going to see Fast 9. I'm not going to see Fast 10 your seatbelts. I'm not going to see any of that shit.
Fast 10 your seatbelts. I'm gonna call up Universal right now. Let them know we've got the script for the next one. Did you see Hobbs and Shaw?
No.
Oh my God, you missed out the best scenes.
No, I didn't. No.
Because this is the thing, because The Rock runs so much shit, he had the entire Anawai clan doing a Haka war dance in front of Idris Elba's cyborg army. Come on, man.
No.
Oh, so Jeremy defends fun in the first segment. Nobody can watch Fast and the Furious.
Shit, he got me.
He's triangulated it perfectly. We've got you in our vice now.
I don't know why, but I think I was just part of that really impressionable age where there were a few things that happened. Like Fast and Furious took off, and like the Need for Speed games where you could trick out and customize the car, and Midnight Club Dub Edition, like all those happened like at the same time where they were really they were striking while the iron was hot. It was the same like phase that I went through with like skateboarding and Tony Hawk.
Yeah,
like,
but I think the thing with Fast and Furious is that it's no longer just car race. I mean,
it's not at all.
It's no longer car racing movies, but they figured out it's like, hey, we can just do whatever we want at this point as long as it involves car tricks.
Right. Yeah.
Like stunts with cars. Like we're just gonna go Mad Max Fury Road on y'all.
Yeah, no, yeah. That was the original reason why I was out on Fast and Furious movies, because I've never been a car guy, and so like the car porn version of the Fast and Furious, which probably only lasted like 2, maybe 3 movies.
Yeah, like Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift was like the last one, I think.
Yeah. And now it just turned into an action movie. Like the cars are secondary. The cars are just a vessel for action.
The cars are how they conduct the action. It's much like It's like the transporter.
Right.
It's like, which I mean, for Hobbs and Shaw, they go and get Jason Statham.
I will say the growth of the Fast and Furious franchise is fascinating. That it went through such a enormous transition from. I mean, the first movie has no likeness to. I
remember Tokyo Drift getting panned too. Like half of these movies just got terrible scores and terrible reviews, and they just kept. He was like, "Yeah, we're just going to keep finding movies. We're just going to keep making movies. There's nothing you can do to stop us."
So, would you say that they shifted
gears?
Shifted gear. You were going to stumble. You weren't going to. You didn't know what how a car shifts.
Well, not really. I don't really understand the nuts and bolts and gears behind that.
True millennial. He can't drive stick.
I can't. I tried. I can't do it.
I did it once. I did it once for a rental car. It was an experience, but it wasn't that hard. People act like driving stick is like some mystic alchemy or whatever. It's not. Your car seems to slow down when you reach the end of a gear. You shift up into the next gear. It's not that hard.
I don't like downshifting, and I think that just speaks to my personality.
I never really. I always downshifted a little too fast, but that's just something you just kind of get into.
Thank you, Memphis 13, for the follow. Memson. Sorry.
Did you think that we were going to talk about Fast and Furious for this long?
I wasn't even expecting
it. It sure made me fast and furious.
All right, can we get to the next segment, please?
Yes. Yes, we can.
I ordered nachos.
Okay.
Are you going to say, look, here's nachos?
These nachos are good. I'm gonna send you a
I know.
picture of them, and you're gonna.
I'm asking our audience. They don't know Ryan doesn't know what I'm doing right now.
I don't know. What are you doing?
Most of our audience doesn't know what we're doing right now because they don't remember your famous night with nachos.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, see, I couldn't even remember.
Well, I knew you have a reason not to remember that.
This is true.
I have a reason to remember all of it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to kick us back to the recording scene.
By the way, do we want to talk about Aaron Rodgers on the podcast at all, or
maybe that's a good thing for the bits, the scraps. We can talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, right now for scraps, I've got that. I've got Julio Jones, and I've got our Fast and Furious talk. So I think we've got a pretty loaded first scraps.
That might be better than the actual podcast.
I would hope so.
Maybe.
I'm very professional for this segment. I just want you guys to know.
Facing forward.
Flying Tigers. Are they? That's all right. Are they still around, or are they?
I don't think so.
I think they are just because they're like training camp, but
I don't even know who they are.
I think Connecticut. It was the Connecticut Tigers that got cut. It's part of the Tigers farm system. Wait for Ryan to get this settled, and we'll get back into it. So Ryan, they do exist. The one who got axed from the Tigers system was the Connecticut Tigers.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah.
Wow, a third act twist. Has he been there the whole time?
No, I just heard him scratching at the door.
Oh, can I get some gooses in the chat, please?
Nobody.
You can't ask for a cameo when he's... Oh!
Oh, you want some attention?
All right.
By the way, Jeremy, I've been like putting in our Slack chat the time just in case when you're. Is that good, or should I send the time to you somewhere else?
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
The time for how long a segment runs.
Oh, I have not been seeing it because I don't have Slack up because I have audio notifications that would probably annoy the listener.
Okay. Okay. I'll figure out a different way to send it to you. It just
okay, that's fine.
Bad.
No, I just didn't have it open, so
yeah.
I'll have to figure out a way that we can have a messaging system that you guys can't see or hear. You guys can't see or hear it.
And welcome back to the Pride of Detroit POD cast. It's minicamp time. Yes, we're transitioning from OTAs to minicamp. It means we get to preview more, not actual football. I love these months.
But it's mandatory football. It's mandatory minicamp.
It's mandatory football method.
There.
You just had to be there, man. You have to be there, or else you'll get fined like Aaron Rodgers.
That's right.
That's right. Where do we want to start? Do you want to start on Tyrell Crosby?
Yeah, let's do it. And yeah, just in case you don't know what the offseason schedule looks like, right in the middle of OTAs this week, the week of June 7th, we're going to have 3 mandatory minicamp sessions. Good news, all 3 of them are open to the media, so you're going to get daily reports this week. But yeah, I think the number, I don't know, maybe not number one story, but one of the bigger stories is, will Tyrell Crosby show up? He obviously did not show up to OTAs, which are voluntary, isn't subject to fines. But just like Aaron Rodgers, Tyrell Crosby is subject to fines if he doesn't show up. The exact same amount of fines, so up to $90,000+ if he doesn't show. Last week, Dan Campbell said he expects him to show. That doesn't necessarily mean he will. Obviously, Crosby is also in the middle of some trade rumors, so I guess I don't know if I have necessarily a question for you guys other than, do you think he shows up? But it's definitely something I'm looking forward to seeing, and then also I guess where he fits in too, right? Because we have seen other guys slip into the team 2 reps at offensive tackle. Does he slide in right back as, maybe the backup left tackle, the backup right tackle, or does the coaching staff make him work his way up since he missed out on OTAs?
This is the hottest storyline in the NFC North when it comes to will he or won't he be traded? Tyrell Crosby. Chris,
can I put on
the backup tackle, right? He's the backup tackle. Like, of course he's going to be there.
Yes, I think he's going to be there. And to answer Jeremy's question about where he's going to be on the depth chart, allow me to pull a Ryan Matthews and put on my tinfoil hat. If they want to get the best value out of trading him, they will showcase him as the backup tackle rather than trying to punish him for not being there and making him work his way back up. Because A, the latter sounds like something the fat bastard would do when he was coach. But also B, if you want to convince people this guy has trade value, you don't punch him down to third string. You keep him right there. You show mini camps open to the media. We will all be watching. We'll all be seeing what he can do there. So I think, and also it just makes sense, right? He is, I think, skilled enough to be number 2 on that depth chart for tackles. Like, there's no reason for him to move down any further. And look, we went into OTAs with plenty of scub NFLPA branded announcements that players wouldn't show up, and most of them did because the PA is kind of weak. But yeah, if Crosby, I think will show up to mandatory. He can't really afford those kind of fines, and there's no reason for him not to, just because like he's gonna be. This is it's either this. I'm sorry, I blanked. It is a contract. It is a contract year.
Yep.
So like, he's going to have to play hard.
Yeah.
Here's my tinfoil hat real quick.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to pass the tinfoil hat from me to you.
Thank you. I put it on and I say, this is going to be the first time that you're going to hear about Tyrell Crosby getting reps at guard. Because what does that do? I think that makes him an even more attractive asset. Oh, look, he's got a little positional versatility. He could be your backup guard. He could be your backup tackle. Tyrell Crosby. Give us the 3rd round pick.
That's very tinfoil. I can't say I agree that that's going to happen. It's an interesting theory. I have to imagine Crosby would hate it. Like, he's already in a bad mood, probably being on the trade block. Probably already in the bad mood for not getting a crack at the starting right tackle job after they drafted Penei Sewell. I guess he could theoretically be in contention for the starting right guard job with Halapuli Vaitai, but doing a positional change at this point in his career when he's already kind of established himself as a pretty good tackle, or at least backup swing tackle, that would be rough. I don't know.
Well, what if you just see him taking reps at right tackle or left tackle with the 2s, but then he's out there playing right guard with the 3s? I don't know. Why not? Who's it gonna hurt?
Logan Stenberg. Nah, not really. He's probably
all right.
He's with the second team.
So now we talk about Jamie Collins coming back.
Sure. Yeah. Jamie Collins missed the first 2 weeks of OTAs. Excused though, not throwing a fit. He told Albert Breer last week that he's at home. I want to say Charlotte, with his girlfriend, awaiting the birth of his second son. So that's an excused absence. Who knows if he shows up for mandatory minicamp? I haven't heard yet whether that he's had the second son or not. But again, it is mandatory, so he would potentially face fines, but you'd have to believe if he decides to stay home and has an excused absence from the lines that they might waive those fines. They don't have to fine him. But the reason I find this interesting is just because we haven't seen him out there and we don't exactly know where he fits or who would be alongside him. Like, we've seen a lot of Alex Anzalone out there. We've seen a lot. There's been a heck of a lot of conversation about Jelani Tavai. We saw Derek Barnes in OTA week 1. He didn't practice in week 2. So when he's in the lineup, who's there next to him? That's interesting to me, because you have to imagine Jamie Collins is sliding into the starting lineup for sure. But who's the other inside linebacker when they're in a 3-4? Is it Anzalone? Does Jelani Tavai get first team reps still? Does Derek Barnes ever get in the starting lineup? You have to imagine he's going to work his way up there. But to me, I'm interested to see who's that inside linebacker alongside Jamie Collins, and hopefully we get an answer this week.
Yeah, Jamie Collins, noted linebacker wearing number 8. It's just going to be so weird to see linebackers wearing single digits.
Yeah.
But I'm right there with you, Jeremy.
DBs wearing single digits.
Yeah, that's true. But it's almost, I don't know. Yeah, it's just going to be weird seeing a lot of, positions in different numbers. But yeah, for a guy that you figure to be a starter, and he's probably your best linebacker, you would hope that he would be there more often than not. But I mean, if you're having a major life event like your son being born, hopefully the Lions give him some
that doesn't
on paternity leave.
That doesn't exactly plan itself around OTAs and mini camp, So,
I heard it doesn't.
No, it does not. So hopefully though things will work out, because as you say, like, it's a very shallow unit right now,
right?
And you kind of need Collins there to headline it. You really need him there to spearhead it. I think question. He's going to be looked at probably to be the leader of that unit alongside Jalen Reeves-Maybin, probably. Like those are probably going to be the two veterans there that just are going to have to carry the load. And the more time he gets to spend with the team, the more reps he gets to learn. I mean, to buy into Aaron Glenn's system and get really settled, is the better it's going to be for the Lions.
Yeah, and we just finished the segment talking about how running backs were tearing up OTAs because the Lions don't have great front seven in coverage. Well, yeah. Jamie Collins is your best bet probably, because the dude is the most athletic of the group. He is big, but he also brings that speed that I think could flash at times in coverage. It's not his best asset, but it's something that he probably does better than anyone short of maybe Jalen Reeves-Maybin. And again, Jalen Reeves-Maybin might be their special teamer, and it might be maybe even a captain on special teams, because like you said, he's that veteran, but I don't think he's going to be the answer on defense, as much as I think people are like, well, he kind of fits what they're trying to do more so than the previous regime did. I don't think they're putting a lot of hopes on him to contribute a lot on defense this year.
Yeah, and let's just keep it with linebacker talk.
Yeah.
Derek Barnes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it even hit me until after practice last week that he wasn't. I mean, I knew he wasn't out there, but it didn't hit me how much I missed him being out there because of everything I just said, like the running backs being out there running amok. A guy like Derek Barnes, he's a guy that, again, he has some of that speed, that sideline to sideline speed that we've seen on his tape, that he needs those reps. Him going against Deandre Swift every day in practice, that's going to be extremely fun to watch, and it's going to be extremely beneficial for Derek Barnes. And so I hope to see him out there this week. I did notice he was part of like the media day today where they're taking a bunch of photos and stuff like that. So it's a good sign that's not a long-term injury. Assuming it was injury, we don't really know why players miss OTAs, but he wasn't there on Thursday. Hope to get him back this week because I think he's a guy that can really benefit from, like I said, going up against some talented guys on the offensive side.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jeremy, maybe explain to the people out here like what changes when we go to minicamp versus what we've been talking about for OTA. Like as far as like, are we going to get a better showcase for offensive linemen out there? Like
no.
What's going to change a lot for you?
Honestly, it's probably not going to be too much. They'll probably ramp up the intensity a little bit, which means maybe more 7-on-7s, but you still can't put on the pads. Contact is still not allowed. So it's really the parameters of what they can do are the exact same. The only difference is, one, it's mandatory. Two, this is probably the last chance a lot of these guys are going to get to have any sort of on-field contributions until training camp, because Dan Campbell specifically said already the last week of OTAs, which is next week, we're just kind of going to focus on rookies that week. It's kind of going to serve again as
rookie minicamp part 2.
Yeah, exactly. He said, if any veterans want to stick around, they're more than welcome to, but we're basically excusing everyone and saying, let's just focus on the rookies. So this is your last chance to make an impression before training camp. Intensity is probably going to be turned up because of that, because there's going to be so much rest after that. So I think we'll probably see more team activities, maybe see things speed up in between drills and things like that, just kind of a more quick pace. But in general, not a lot can change in terms of what they can specifically do on the field. But we also get them for 3 straight days, and that's fun. We get a lot more coverage.
3 straight days, yeah. So I guess the way to tap this off then is, what are the main storylines you guys are looking forward to? What, besides what we just talked about, Jamie Collins, Derek Barnes, Tyrell Crosby, like what are the big storylines you guys are looking at?
To me,
I think
go ahead.
Oh, go on, Ryan.
I was gonna say, I think for me, it's slowly evolved, and maybe it isn't the most maybe the most interesting aspect of what can happen over these next few days. But to me, like the Todd Gurley stuff has started to really like pique my interest.
Yeah.
Like I find it interesting. I do. And I think I just find it interesting from the perspective that it's an opportunity for a veteran back to come in here when the Lions don't have one, and a guy who, when he was good, he was maybe the best player in the entire NFL. But it's not the same thing as Adrian Peterson. Like, it was very clear that Adrian Peterson, like, his best days were way long gone. Like, this is Todd Gurley, who, you know, he's obviously he's worse for wear, but at the same time, by all accounts, it seems like he's the guy that the coaching staff really wants. Like, the coaching staff really wants him there. So I think that that's one of the most interesting storylines to monitor for me.
I think what it is for me is, and we talked about him earlier, but I'll just go ahead and say it again. Like, I keep wanting to see more out of Jared Goff. I want to see how he evolves with the system that Anthony Lynn's putting in. I want to, again, I'm not going to be able to see how he's going to respond under pressure adequately enough, but hey, there's that word. But I think accuracy wise, it's like kind of like throwing at a pro day. You should pretty well know exactly where you're throwing because you've got favorable conditions during OTAs and during minicamp that you should, like you'll be getting some pressure, but it's all going to be about, you're going to have ideal scenarios. So you should be getting that ball exactly where you want to place it. Maybe your receiver's getting tied up with a defensive back at that point, but that's not on you. I just want to see that his mechanics are there, that everything looks good. And maybe we can slow the roll a little bit on some of the people who are absolutely convinced that Jared Goff does not deserve to play another snap in the NFL.
Yep. Jared Goff will remain a huge storyline throughout the entire year. And yeah, I think everyone's going to have eyes on him from now until then. My desire for minicamp, because to me, it's the two biggest question marks on the roster. It's their secondary and it's their wide receiving core. I want to see some one-on-ones. I want to see some wide receivers go against some cornerbacks. I haven't seen that at all in minicamp or during OTAs. So I mean, I think that's a great way, easy way for me to evaluate as someone just standing on the sidelines. It's also like, it's a really, those are some of the most competitive reps you see during training camp is wide receivers versus cornerbacks, because, those are two guys, two positions that like to talk a lot, right? And two positions that take a lot of pride in their work. And so I want to see some of that. Maybe it's just going to be 7-on-7s and we don't see the 1v1s, but that's where I'm going to have a lot of my focus. Is just I want to see if Aaron Glenn can get that secondary turned around. I want to see if any of those wide receivers can use that chip on their shoulder and become a true number one or become a true number two, or any of the depth guys on the wide receiver chart. We saw Victor Bolden last week kind of make a name for himself a little bit with a couple of big catches and obviously some work on punt return as well. I want to see something out of the big guys. I want to see if Brashad Perriman can convince some people that he might not be a bust in the NFL level. I want to see anyone kind of, and you know what? One thing I also haven't seen, and this will go against what Chris said, but I haven't seen an interception yet. I'd like to see an interception. Hopefully it's not Jared Goff the one throwing it, but I want to see some defensive players get their hands on the ball, because I think it was you, Ryan, who mentioned like, well, they have 7 interceptions last year? Mm-hmm. Something really low like that. So that's something that's going to need to change, and yeah, that's something that maybe just it wavers from year to year. But we need playmakers on the defense, and Aaron Glenn is the one source of optimism there right now, and I want to see some fruits. It's early, I understand that, but I want to see some fruits of those labors this week, hopefully during mandatory minicamp.
Yeah. Well, speaking of quarterback talk too, though, do you think that with how bad Tim Boyles looked, that David Blau has a chance to be the backup?
Well, maybe.
This is Jeremy's favorite topic.
Maybe backup quarterback talk.
I know it's just OTAs, but I guess like much is going to be made like during training camp too, of like the quarterback depth.
Sure.
People are undoubtedly going to talk about it.
No question. The worry I have is I don't want to overreact to one practice.
Yeah.
Because Tim Boyle was really bad last Thursday. That doesn't mean he's been very bad. And he wasn't. I didn't notice him being exceptionally bad during the first set of OTAs. So that's just something that I'll have. Based on last practice, I would say yes, that is a competition. But based on what everyone else has said about Tim Boyle, I think maybe we just caught him on a bad day.
Yeah, it's early. We'll wait and see. I think, as always, our axiom here is that if we're going to the backup quarterback, you're already screwed anyway.
Yep.
So
especially
whoever
with a team
that
hasn't been given much of a chance in the first place.
No. Oh man, no. But hey, that's it for the POD cast. Jeremy, are we going to have any kind of reaction podcasts from minicamp, you think?
I am planning on it, yes, because we are up to Amon-Ra St. Brown on our First Bite podcast, but I just got word actually today that we're probably going to have to push that back to next week. So I would expect at least one First Bite podcast that is just mandatory minicamp focused, maybe two.
And as always, we have Locker Room up, and you can join it there now, available on Android. Out of all the SB Nation shows that are showing up on Locker Room, I think we are by and away the biggest. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Keep showing up for Eric and Jeremy to keep asking questions of them. I might try to jump in at some point. Ryan too. Ryan's there too. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to jump in at some point now that it's on Android. It's just at a weird time for me. But yeah, we're
everywhere.
We're everywhere. We're everywhere. We're always in your ears. And we thank you all, as always, because you guys have made us as big as we are. And it's pretty damn cool. So for myself, for Jeremy Reisman, for Ryan Matthews, we're getting out of here. Thank you for listening to the Pride of Detroit POD cast. And as always, we'll see you Starside.